The story begins when the German dinner family, amid a wave of labor protests in France, sets off on vacation to a quiet, remote area. Esther, along with her husband John and their 2 children, Alba and Philip, settle into a luxurious retreat surrounded by nature and far from the city. After getting settled, Esther decides to take the family out to a fancy restaurant in town. At the same time, we are introduced to Theodora and her group of friends who work as waitstaff at the restaurant. They carefully observe the customers and soon select Esther's family as their next target. While the family is enjoying complimentary drinks, Theodora and Lucien begin to execute their plan. On the way back home, Theodora suddenly appears in the dark road pretending to have been hit by the car. John, frightened and slightly intoxicated, stops the vehicle and runs to help the girl. He suggests taking her to the hospital, but Esther objects, saying the incident could harm their reputation and lead to legal trouble. After a brief argument, Esther convinces John that the best course of action is to avoid involving the police or medical authorities and instead take Theodora home to treat her themselves. They do so, and once they arrive at their estate, Esther disinfects Theodora's wound herself. Upon seeing the cut on Theodora's hand, she becomes suspicious and suggests the injury doesn't look like it came from an accident. But the rest of the family, frightened and overwhelmed, dismiss her concerns. After tending to the wound, Esther gives Theodora the guest room to rest in and discreetly hands her some money in hopes of putting the matter to rest. Meanwhile, John cleans the car seats to eliminate any evidence. The next day, everything seems to return to normal. Theodora is gone, and the money Esther gave her has also disappeared. However, Philip is upset with his parents' actions and says that giving money like that is basically bribery and unjust. His parents, especially Esther, disagree. She responds by saying that the amount they gave is a lot for people like her. While cooking, Alba tells her brother that Theodora has returned and is standing at their doorstep. John, now a bit uneasy, opens the door to see what she wants. Theodora compliments the house, then explains that due to her poor performance, because of the hand injury, she has been fired from her job, has nowhere to stay, and the money she was given isn't enough to get by. Before John and Esther can respond, Theodora offers to work at their house, saying she noticed they don't have anyone doing the housework. John strongly objects and tries to give her more money to make her leave for good. But Theodora insists she's not there to take a bribe. She just wants a job. Still angry at John for driving drunk the night before, Esther ultimately agrees to let Theodora work for them, despite her husband's disapproval. Thus, Theodora moves in and slowly gains the trust of Philip and Alba. However, Alba remains suspicious and feels that Theodora is hiding something. That night, John wakes up to strange noises. He sees an injured animal, and suddenly Theodora appears, startling him. She suggests using poison to get rid of the pests, warning that if he doesn't, the house could become overrun. She then hands him a bag with the wounded animal inside and tells him to kill it himself. The next day, Theodora deliberately leaves cigarettes and a lighter in Alba's room to spark her curiosity. She also teaches her some French swear words, even though Alba had mentioned the night before that her mother thinks learning French is useless. Theodora is clearly trying to get closer to Alba and win her trust. Later that day, while they're out shopping in town, Theodora's friends wait discreetly nearby. One of them seizes the moment to exchange information with her. Meanwhile, John is drinking again, so Theodora drives back with Philip and the groceries. Having developed a closer bond with Philip, Theodora starts teaching him some household tasks. While preparing dinner, she begins slicing meat and secretly eats some of it raw, unnoticed by Alba. Meanwhile, John, following Theodora's advice, spreads poison in the house's basement. Soon, guests arrive at the house. John's business partner Aki, along with his wife Cora and their son. From the start, Cora treats Theodora disrespectfully. During dinner, it becomes clear that there's more than just friendship between Cora and John, as they exchange suggestive glances. During the conversation, Philip criticizes the unfairness in the world, pointing out that not everyone is as lucky as they are. Some people have no jobs or money. He references Theodora as an example and talks about inequality and workplace exploitation. John replies that maybe it's time Philip gets a job himself. Philip sarcastically responds that he doesn't need to work. He's rich enough not to. On another day, the family visits the beach. Esther and Theodora stay back and only watch from a distance. Esther is afraid of the sea, and Theodora says she can't go in because of her hand injury. While Esther lies down to sunbathe, Theodora takes the chance to steal her phone. Alba notices but pretends not to have seen anything. When Esther realizes her phone is missing, she becomes furious. Theodora then suggests taking her to buy a new one, and Esther agrees, while the rest of the family stays at the beach. Theodora uses this opportunity to get closer to Esther, gradually gaining the trust of every family member, even drawing Philip's attention to the point where he keeps looking at photos he has taken of her. Eventually, Alba decides to tell the truth and confesses to her mother that Theodora stole the phone. Esther, surprised, confronts Theodora alongside her daughter. But Theodora denies everything, and Esther ends up believing her, even apologizing. To deepen the sympathy, Theodora intentionally worsens her injury, prompting Esther to feel sorry for her and invite her to dinner out of compassion. All these events unfold in an attempt to forget unpleasant moments, and in the process, an opportunity for conversation arises. Since Theodora is now considered a friend of Esther's, during an evening gathering, Esther shares some of her inner struggles with her. After listening, Theodora seizes the moment and tells her that it was actually Alba who stole her phone and hid it in her closet. Esther believes her without question, saying that her daughter is always jealous of everyone. At that moment, Theodora asks her whether she's ready to experience a new kind of adventure. Esther doesn't respond. After dinner, Theodora takes Esther to a disco and introduces her to her friends. There, Esther meets a girl named Amber, who is also on vacation. When Esther finds herself alone, Lucien approaches her and tries to strike up a conversation. He insists on offering her a drink, which she eventually accepts. After a while, Esther becomes euphoric and full of energy, dancing enthusiastically. At sunrise, Esther joins Theodora's friends on a trip to the beach. Although she's reluctant to enter the water, Lucien convinces her. Meanwhile, Amber disappears, and Esther goes off with Lucien to a more secluded area. When they return, they see Theodora's friends enjoying a juicy barbecue. While eating, they mock the wealthy and their lifestyle. Esther joins them and enjoys the food. When she asks about Amber, they say she had to leave early, but it's a lie, since her belongings are still on the beach. A few days later, Esther realizes that her phone really was in Alba's room. But when Alba tells her that Theodora has been stealing her underwear, Esther just laughs and tells her daughter she's imagining things. Meanwhile, Esther and her husband get into a fight because John's business is struggling. Tired of the situation, Esther receives a letter from Lucien, delivered by Theodora, in which he confesses that he has fallen madly in love with her. This awakens new emotions in Esther. At the same time, Alba is no longer receiving attention from her parents, and her brother Philip is lost in his own world. Before sunrise, Esther decides to run away with Lucien. John, realizing she's gone, assumes she just needed a break and tells the children not to worry. During breakfast, Alba bitterly mentions that her father didn't allow her to keep a frog she found in the pool as a pet. The only one who sympathizes with her is Theodora, while the rest of the family remains indifferent. A few hours later, Cora visits the family. She has received a message from Esther asking her to look after the children because she plans to disappear for a while. John still thinks Esther just needs some space. When Cora sees Theodora and her friends freely using the pool, she tells John that it's unbelievable how their maid has become part of the family and warns him that this could be dangerous. As she prepares to leave, Cora and John grow closer, revealing they are having a secret affair. Meanwhile, Lucien and Esther are enjoying themselves together. That night, Theodora goes into Alba's room to say goodnight. Alba is hesitant at first, but eventually accepts Theodora's affection. Philip, who can't stop thinking about Theodora, decides to secretly watch her. But when Theodora notices, she throws him out of the room. Elsewhere, Esther wakes up to get some water and finds packs of meat in Lucien's fridge. Lucien explains that the meat is only for barbecues. Although the smell is intensely unpleasant, Esther believes him. The next day, Theodora invites John to a nighttime party, but John, uncomfortable with her friends, declines the invitation. That night, Lucien and Esther attend the party. During a conversation with a stranger, Esther learns that the birthday girl and Lucien both worked at a luxury restaurant, the same one where she and her family received free drinks the night of the incident. Now deeply disturbed, Esther sends a message to John and heads to the bathroom to gather her thoughts. But suddenly, blood begins to flow from the water pipes. Terrified, she tries to escape, only to discover the horrifying truth. Theodora and her friends are actually cannibals. They hunt and eat the rich as an act of class revenge. Esther tries to flee but ultimately falls victim to the gruesome group. Afterward, Theodora and her friends return to Esther's house and relax by the pool. John, who had been with Cora, wakes up to the noise and asks Theodora to be quieter. But she merely apologizes mockingly. Cora, upset by John's indifference, decides to leave the house. As John returns to his room, he hears noises coming from the roof. But before he can investigate, Theodora suddenly appears and reminds him, pests are always a plague. Before John can react, she kills him. Philip returns home late at night and sees Cora's car at the entrance, but doesn't think much of it. Upon seeing several motorcycles in the yard, he enters the house and heads toward the pool. There, he sees Alba relaxing with Theodora and her friends. When he notices that his sister doesn't wake up, he decides not to disturb them. But when he heats up a piece of meat in the kitchen and begins eating, he suddenly discovers his mother's ring inside it. Meanwhile, Theodora, along with Alba and the others, leaves the house. I hope you enjoyed this introduction. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give me your support with likes and comments.